Donald Trump sealed his fate tonight, a symbolic end to his presidency in which he signed his death certificate in the form of the release of the Epstein files, and with it, he did a thing he has never done in his political career, and that is admit that he lost. He wouldn't do it after the 2020 election, but tonight, Donald Trump admitted that he has lost. He has lost control of his presidency, he has lost control of Congress, and worst of all, he has lost control of his MAGA movement. And it shows. The panic in the White House, it shows. It is why Karoline Leavitt, who will defend him at all costs, was rushed away from the press. Unable and unwilling to defend Donald Trump. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Karoline Leavitt being rushed away, Karoline Leavitt rushing away the press, I want to start with what Lawrence O'Donnell had to say today, perfectly breaking down Donald Trump's humiliating defeat.
Tonight, Donald Trump put his surrender and humiliation in writing in capital letters in a tweet saying, "I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files." While he was at it, Donald Trump once again treated his true believers as if he believes they are the stupidest people in the world. No one insults the intelligence of Trump voters more than Donald Trump. In his tweet, announcing his total surrender on that legislation, Donald Trump said, "As everyone knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass this bill in the House and Senate, respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage. Everyone in Congress knows, and everyone in the country should know, that Donald Trump fought this bill every minute until he was told over the weekend that he was going to lose, both in the House and, much more importantly, in the Senate, where Donald Trump had every right to believe that the bill to release the Epstein files would hit a dead end in the Republican-controlled United States Senate, even if it passed the House of Representatives. Today, the man who really created the unanimous vote against Donald Trump finally emerged from the shadows and spoke. By the middle of last week, when it was clear the bill would pass the House of Representatives, Republicans in the United States Senate were strangely silent. Not a single Republican senator jumped to a microphone last week to say that he or she would block the Epstein files bill if Chuck Schumer tried to bring it up in the Senate. Each individual Republican senator had the power to block Chuck Schumer when he asked for unanimous consent to consider the bill and to immediately pass the bill, even before the bill had arrived in the Senate from the House of Representatives. But there wasn't a single Republican senator last week saying this is a Democratic hoax. There wasn't a single Republican senator last week using Donald Trump's words about the Epstein files. And by the end of the week, there was reasonable speculation that there could be maybe 100 Republican votes in the House, joining all 214 Democratic votes in the House to release the Epstein files. And that size vote would have been considered a massive bipartisan vote. And that would put tremendous pressure on Republicans in the United States Senate. And then on Sunday night at 9:15 p.m., Donald Trump tweeted, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files. And as soon as I saw that, I knew that the Senate was lost. The Senate was lost to Donald Trump.
As he always does, Lawrence put it perfectly, and he has diagnosed throughout the entirety of this Epstein scandal what it means to Donald Trump, a fracturing with his base and admission that he has no control over Congress anymore, and that neither does Mike Johnson. That is what is so important to keep in mind why I call this an end to Donald Trump's administration, because there will be no legislating left. Mike Johnson is powerless as Donald Trump is powerless. Donald Trump has given us one topic to talk about for the rest of this Congress, the rest of this year, and certainly the rest of his term. And that is the Epstein files, whether real transparency is brought or not. And it was that question tonight, knowing that the release was coming, knowing that Donald Trump would sign this bill, that he tried so hard to block from ever happening, from ever seeing the light of day, there was no ability to defend it. And the question was, what will come out? What will they not obstruct? And it was that question that led the White House to shut down, knowing that they can't answer it yet, and they're terrified of it. And it's why Karoline Leavitt was rushed away and why the press was rushed away as well. Because in an act of panic, the White House called a lid tonight, meaning that there were no more public events, that the press was removed from the premises, and that people were unaware if Trump would sign the Epstein bill, because Karoline Leavitt and the White House Communications Office were not responding to the press. Karoline Leavitt was unable to respond tonight, so much so to the point that the press had to be removed from the premises, that she was not taking or answering questions, that those who covered the White House were left in the dark. And it is representative of not just the entirety of this Epstein scandal, a complete lack of transparency, but what is to come, and why Karoline Leavitt is so panicked, and why her narrative that she pushed earlier today just isn't going to land. Listen to what she had previously said to the press just hours before Donald Trump signed the release of the Epstein files.
But if you look at how this Epstein story sort of evolved over the past week, it's classic Washington hoax.
Yes.
You have Democrats on the Oversight Committee leaking redacted information to their favorite reporter at CNN, who then pops the story with that redacted information and does not reveal that the unredacted version is available. And the unredacted version proves that the so-called victim in this email is a woman who is unfortunately deceased, but prior to her death said on numerous occasions that President Trump never did anything wrong and was always incredibly friendly in her interactions with him. And so it's a purposeful leak to try to manufacture this news cycle to drag the president. And we've seen this play out so many times. It is a classic playbook of the Democrats using their friends in the fake news to spin up a narrative about the president. And so we just don't tolerate it. We don't give in. We just call it out for what it is. And we move on and we focus on the issues that we know the president was elected on. And I would just add one more thing on Epstein. I mean, the Department of Justice has turned over tens of thousands of pages to the House Oversight Committee and to the American people. I mean, they released everything that's legally releasable online or to the House Oversight Committee. They also tried to move grand juries to unseal documents in various states, and unfortunately those judges declined, and they've been fully cooperating with the House Oversight Committee. So this idea that there's files that the DOJ is hiding or that this administration is not being transparent is just totally false. It's a fallacy. And I understand people have questions, and when you're on the outside, you're skeptical of government, and people should be. But there is literally nothing to hide, and President Trump has maintained that this entire time. And so, again, this is a classic playbook being run by the Democrats.
She is still calling it a hoax. Still calling it a hoax. This is the woman who says that this is the most transparent administration in history, and she is still calling it a hoax. What does that lead you to believe about the release that is to come of these Epstein files? What does that lead you to believe about how much we should trust this Trump administration? Because for me, it is, as it has always been, not at all. We are not going to. But what we are going to do is continue to chip away. Something big has happened this week. This is not just a fracturing of the MAGA base, but this is a potential realignment of our politics, with progressives like Ro Khanna leading the charge, bringing in Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace. These are people I don't like, who I don't like to give credit to, but they held strong. And for me, I think it's because they believe themselves to have a pretty good finger on the pulse when it comes to the MAGA base. And the MAGA base gave up on Donald Trump. On this issue, they turned their back on him. Again, for the first time in his political career, this is an issue he cannot win over his voters on. He is underwater with his base. He's underwater with MAGA, with Republicans. Donald Trump is on the Epstein issue. This is a moment in which there could be a real realignment. And it is why Donald Trump is so panicked, because he can no longer tell his Republicans that what they need to worry about most is a primary. That is the threat that has hung over all of Republican politics since Donald Trump became the nominee of the party. What he would post about you on Truth Social. Donald Trump's done a lot of Truth Social posting lately, whether it be about Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, whether it be about the Republicans in Indiana who told him to fuck off when it comes to gerrymandering. Donald Trump was told no again and again and again. And tonight, he made that clear. He put it in writing that he is a loser. He put it in writing that his base is fracturing. And Karoline Leavitt can't defend even that. Donald Trump is always the strong man to her. Donald Trump is always going to win. Donald Trump to Karoline Leavitt is inevitable. She wants you to see it that way, that this is the all-powerful empire administration and they will always defeat us. Now, of course, that has not been the case many times during this presidency. Donald Trump loses about 95% of his lawsuits, a little more than that. But they have led so many to believe that they were unbeatable. Tonight, they were not just defeated. They had to admit to it. So much so, in such humiliating fashion, that Karoline Leavitt couldn't even defend it. Keep that in mind, that Karoline Leavitt couldn't even defend it. And Lawrence, he had the same take on how humiliated Donald Trump was.
What does it mean for Donald Trump's presidency if that poll turns out to be true and the Democrats do take back the House of Representatives?
Well, at that point, we're able to cut his presidency in half legislatively, begin to really hold the administration accountable. The House will no longer function as nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda in most cases. Instead, will be a check and balance on an out-of-control executive branch, which is exactly what the framers intended the House to be.
House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, thank you very much.
Donald Trump lost tonight, and Donald Trump admitted it, and we have to continue this fight because of it. They are weak. They are on their back foot. They are going to do their best to rewrite this history, and we cannot let them. They are going to do their best to put obstacles in place to prevent us from getting the full release of these files. We're not going to let them. We're going to keep fighting on the show every single day. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.